You know, there are some things in your life that you learn and then implement and they're game changers. Well, when I learnt this stuff about ego and my ego and everyone's ego, but specifically about me and ego and how it works, this was a game changer for me. And it is something that I'm aware of daily, and it certainly has been helping me continually improve my functionality, which is something I'm passionate about. So I want to chat with you about ego. Ego is very simply your sense of identity, who you think you are. Yeah, and we obviously must need them because we've all got them. So it's a part of being human, and it's been a part of us as a species through evolution, creating this sense of identity. And I find the most powerful part of this conversation is not trying to change your ego so much, it's just being aware of it. And through awareness, that actually creates possibilities, and it creates options in moments to pause and choose how we want to respond rather than being reactionary. Our egos are very defensive and very reactionary. So to help you know when it's your ego at play, I'm just going to talk about the ego a little bit and describe some of the characteristics. So our egos are very defensive. They're always defending their sense of who they think they are. Our egos are an illusion. They're not actually a real, tangible thing. In fact, we made up our ego. I don't know if any of you have got children, but when brand new little babies are born, if you've been around brand new little babies, you'll see they don't have an ego. They don't have a sense of, oh yes, I know who I am. For them, it's all just sights and sounds and sensations. In fact, brand new little babies still think that they're part of their mum. So it's over as we grow up that we start to create this sense of identity. So it's an illusion. The ego is fueled by fear. So it gets its petrol, its juice from fear. And that's necessary because part of the reason we have an ego is a self-protection mechanism to keep us safe. And the ego resists change because change is the unknown and potentially dangerous. The ego is trying to keep us safe, so it resists change. The ego is also completely me-centric, so it's very, very focused on itself. And even if somebody has a sense of identity that is, I help other people, and they identify as someone who does good for other people, the ego is still serving itself in that moment. So that person might be going and doing volunteer work, which is great for the greater good. That's fortunate, but the ego has identified as that, and it is serving itself because that's how it identifies. So it's very me-centric. Now, the ego has 6 basic needs, and I'm going to share them with you so that the next time this comes up for you, you won't be able to pretend that you don't know what I'm about to share with you, and you'll know it's your ego. So in no particular order, ego has the need to justify, needs to justify its behaviour. And you'll find that you justify yourself to yourself and you justify yourself to other people. So next time you hear yourself justifying your behaviour, it's just your ego. Ego has the need to judge. So when you hear yourself making judgment on other people or making judgment on yourself, that's just your ego. And the ego needs to judge because it's in reference or comparison to others that the ego actually starts to try and understand or defend its sense of self. But when you're making a judgment on somebody else, whether it's a positive or negative judgment, it's actually not about that other person. It's your ego going, oh, I wouldn't do that, or oh yeah, I would do that. So it's the ego talking to itself. Justify, judge. Ego has the need to know. You know when you are desperate to know something that actually is probably not any of your business. I don't know, maybe you're sitting at home with your partner and you're in the kitchen preparing some food and your partner's on the couch on social media and they start laughing at something. And you say, oh, what are you laughing at? And they say, oh no, it's nothing. You say, what? What did you just see? That part of you that's desperate to know what they saw on social media, it's just your ego. Ego needs to be right, desperate to be right. So in those situations where you hear yourself saying, I told you so, maybe you and a friend were disagreeing over something and it turns out you were right, the part of you that goes, told you so, that's just your ego as well. Ego needs to look good, hates looking stupid. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where something's happened and you feel completely embarrassed and you wish that the ground would just swallow you up and you could hide, that's just your ego as well. And the last one that I want to point out for you is the need to get even. Now this is not always so strong for everybody, but some people really have a really strong need to get even. You know, someone who holds a grudge Maybe something was done years and years ago and they just will not let it go. They're determined to hold that grudge forever. It's just your ego. So, with your ego and how to help you in this, don't go to war with your ego. The war on drugs, more drugs. The war on terror, more terror. The war on poverty, more poverty. Don't go to war with it. That just fuels the fire. I kind of like to just turn the light on, shed some awareness on it, and have a little kind of conversation with myself. So when I notice my ego at play, I just go, oh, look at you go, ego. Bless your cotton socks. I see you. It's okay. Carry on. But I'm just going to pause and choose how to respond rather than just react from a place of ego. So don't go to war with it. The other thing, you can't call other people on their ego. It doesn't work. You can call yourself on your ego, but if you try to tell a friend or a loved one or a colleague, oh, that's just your ego, it's not going to work. It's going to backfire. So there's some tips on ego. Enjoy exploring with love yourself and your ego and just calling it out and letting it know that you are going to create some more choices in the way you choose to respond to the situations in your life.